not wrong.
All right. So let's good morning, John. Good morning, Jonathan.
Morning, everyone.
Let's just get rolling. It is 11 o'clock, 11:02. This is the Easton Economic Development Council meeting, January 12th, 2013. Welcome to our meeting. We had recently a resignation. Matt Whitman has resigned. He is moving on to greener pastures. And I just want to, make a note. Thank you, Matt, for all you did, all you've done. Matt did most of our website work. So when we would finish these meetings, Matt would actually go to work and continue working for the Economic Development Council. And he did a lot in his time here, and he was a great member and contributed very well. So thank you, Mr. Whitman. All right, so the first item on the agenda is to accept the meeting minutes of September 8th, 2022. Did everybody have a chance? And does anybody have any comments, questions, corrections? No? Can I get a motion to approve those minutes as they are?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for September 8th, 2022.
All right, Bruce, and then do I have a second?
Second.
All right, and Jonathan Spencer for a second. All in favor, just raise your hand. Okay, and next item on the agenda is the suggested meeting schedule change. So I think the past 6 months or so it's been difficult for a number of people, myself included, getting to these meetings. Them being during the workday it's tough during the workday, but it's also tough in the evening. So there's really no win. So our thought was to just reduce the amount of meetings so we can make better the content and make it so that more people can participate. And I believe the idea was to reduce it to quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think of moving it to quarterly? Do you think that's too much, or that's just right? I'll also point out before anybody offers input on that, Stephanie and I talked, and we also want to focus more on collaboration with the chamber and events like that occurred in the summer. Make that like the main focus moving forward, at least for the next year or so. And what that'll do is that will make it so that our efforts here are actual events that occur with the chamber, with businesses. We have great meetings, and the talk is fantastic, but oftentimes not a lot of action can come out of it. We're restrained a lot by a lot of what we want to do, but this will make it so that our focus will be, we can an event, have not just one event a year, 2 events a year, 3 events a year, something like that. And our focus will be on supporting business community, the chamber, and these events. So if our focus is that, then we can reduce these meetings. If our focus is that, we can reduce these meetings. How much can we reduce these meetings to, where we're still doing, good work? What do you guys think? Stephanie, Jonathan, you're on mute.
I'll say this. How many meetings, those events you said mostly happen in the summertime, right?
Well, mostly only because historically, yes. But if that's going to be our new focus, and this is also born out of the chamber reaching out to us wanting to do more of these.
Yeah.
So it's not just us saying, we want to do this. Yeah. The feedback from the chamber was, hey, that was so great. We need to do more of this. So they actually approached us.
To your point, right? Which is if I think that's a great focus of this group, and I think you're absolutely spot on that is good actionable stuff for us to focus on. So it's kind of like, how do you plan a cadence for meetings? I don't exactly know when those events are going to be, but it feels like to me we'd want to get together prior to an event, or when we have something to plan for or discuss, right? I don't know. I don't know how so I don't know what the cadence would necessarily be.
It's a good point, Jonathan. So I would think that in one meeting you would have to talk about having an event, and then you would also need another meeting to talk about the contents of that event, the flow of that event, more about that event. So you would need 2 meetings for every event. So a question to be had is, how many events ideally would we want to do a year, not just one, because now this is our focus. So
Right.
how many events do we want to do a year, and then we can work it backwards? Stephanie, what do you think?
I think that was a good observation, Jonathan.
Mm.
It really, again, it depends on the distribution of work in getting it done. If there's a lot of support from the chamber, which there was on the event back in August. I would say, to me, I'll start with, to me, 4 events a year would be a lot. Yeah. I think we could do effectively 2 events a year. And then we could schedule maybe a quarterly meeting just to check in, but then maybe have, around the time of each event, have a meeting, say, we'd coordinate it around the quarterly meetings, and then maybe have a second meeting to follow up. Mm-hmm. I don't think we met that often ahead or talked about the August meeting ahead of it. So I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but I'm kind of thinking out loud.
No, you're not rambling at all, Stephanie. I think you're right in that. Let's plan on 2 events, but let's also, so 2 events quarterly that would do that. But if the chamber comes to us asking for a 3rd event, we're open to it. We're open to doing that. But I lost my train of thought. But to your point, we can't know when a meeting will occur until we know when the date of an event will occur. So even though it's quarterly, it might not line up. So it's like once a quarter. It might be, 1 month, then skip a month, then another month, and then a couple months off. It won't exactly fall perfectly.
Yeah. So here's a thought, because a quarter is just 3 months. That's not a lot of time. Maybe what we should do is, if we're going to do 2 a year, let's kind of figure out what the schedule is. What would those dates be for those 2 meetings? And then work the schedule around that. So you'd have at least a planning meeting before, you'd have a planning meeting and maybe a follow-up meeting. And a follow-up to the planning meeting to finalize things.
So here's a thought. It's January. I think a good idea would be to have a spring event. So yes. Let's say a spring event is in May. June is summer. It's spring, but it's not fun yet. May is wonderful. So May. So then maybe our next meeting should be at the end of February. At the end of March or early April.
I was thinking March.
Okay. So our next meeting will be in March.
I don't know that I would, okay, so let's do that. May forum.
So March.
And let's just stick with that, because then if we did one, say 6 months later.
We don't know.
That would be November.
Yeah.
Spring event, fall event, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody's around in the summer and winters are hard. The holidays and whatnot.
So if you look at 2 events, and 2 events is a good number, I agree. A spring event and a fall event. Who doesn't love the fall? Who doesn't love the spring? I think that's when people are, in the fall you're back and you're looking for something, and in the spring you're anxious to get out. So I think that, and then plan the meetings to cascade around spring and fall.
Right.
Good use of the word cascade.
Yeah, that was good. I like that. So thinking that way, then I would propose probably earlier in March than later. That gives me time. I can give Isabel a call, and oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the she's not so new anymore, director's name.
Lisa,
that's right. I knew it started with an L and it wasn't Linda. A call, let them know, and we'd invite them to that first meeting, and we can kind of start talking about potential topics. And I would also encourage everyone here, what are the topics? Because I think what we agreed worked really well for the August meeting was having a guest speaker, and then also people, and maybe this would be a once a year, we'd have town leadership there for questions and to give updates. How does that sound, Dottie?
I think that sounds great. I think we have a lot of new businesses that have come on in the last several months. So it might
Mhm.
be a really great way to energize them, get them in and talk to them about, their experience doing business in Easton so far.
Yep.
And getting a guest speaker is, I think that's a great idea. And a lot of times that will, give a big draw. We're going to have a new political administration in Massachusetts. So I'm not sure what that means yet for some of the secretaries of economic development
Mhm.
or Mass Office of Business Development or any of those. But I think let's wait and see who we might want to bring down to have a conversation with us.
Yeah.
Dottie, maybe you could reach out to Maura Healy and see if she wants to
Yeah.
be a guest speaker.
Sure.
That sounds great.
She might have a lot on her plate.
Just keep piling it on. You know how you get something done? You ask a really busy person to do it. The sooner they can clear it from their plate, that's how things get done. Bruce and John, what do you guys think?
I think that sounds good to me.
No, I agree. Yep. Yeah.
I
think that makes a lot of
sounded
sense.
the quarterly sounded like a good schedule to me, but I wondered about having enough time to prepare for the meeting. So I think, if we can coordinate it so that we are meeting before we're going to have that event, I think that would work.
Well, if we ever feel like we need to squeeze in a meeting because we're unprepared, we can absolutely do that. Moving it to quarterly does not mean that we're only going to do it 4 times a year. Hard stop. It's it's a guideline. But I do like the idea. I think this narrows our focus to something like Jonathan had said. It's actionable. We can participate in it. We can be there for it. So I do like this direction.
Mark, I apologize for being a little bit late, so I don't know if this makes sense with the conversation or not, but in the past, one of the things in our master plan, there's a section on economic development, and there were some action items that were supposed to be executed through that plan, and we used to check in on that and see where we were. I think it makes sense. Personally, I'm so meetinged out with work meetings, town meetings. If it's not important, we're all super busy and we want to make sure our meetings are not just a meeting to have a meeting. But I think we should look at the beginning of the year, what are our goals? What are we trying to accomplish during the year so that even if we have 2 events, what's the purpose of that? What are we trying to expect for outcomes, and how is that going to further our economic development goals? And that may help us also look for a speaker and kind of make this like a turnkey. I'm trying to automate my whole life right now. So like I have a spreadsheet on everything. If we have an event on this date, this is where the invitations have to go out. This is where the plans have to happen, so that it's not reinventing the wheel every time we want to do this. And I think that will streamline it and make it a little bit more efficient as well. And also to really clearly define the expectations of who's doing what, so that there's no, oh, I thought this person was going to order the food, or like it shouldn't all be left on one person. We should be able to split those tasks up so everybody has a role.
Sounds spot on. It sounds to me like you were talking about 2 things. One is purpose and one is logistics. 2 very important things. So I understood. I wish I can't speak to the purpose as outlined through the economic development charter because I don't have it in front of me right now. I wish I did. But all right, so that's something to discuss in our next meeting, as well as logistics. So perhaps between now and our next meeting in March, Stephanie, we talk to the chamber and try and get a date for an event, so that when we come together in March, we already have the event date picked and some ideas knocking around about what we're going to do. So in that meeting, we can discuss the goal, and the logistics to achieve that goal.
Mhm.
And then once we do that, that'll be our rubric moving forward for every time this happens. Does that work?
Mhm.
And I think if the committee members have their own ideas of goals,
Share that.
you know, we can just send the section of the master plan out with the goals and objectives for everybody to familiarize themselves with. Honestly, I think the spoiler alert's going to be we've probably done almost
A
all,
lot
if
of
not
it.
all of them.
And-
But that just means we should create some new ones. So I think if everybody on the committee thinks what they would like to see for goals, and then we can just compile them and talk them through and get a new list going.
Yeah.
And that actually ties right in. I mean, it's just been so busy the last couple of years, but we really have been talking a lot, and it's been a goal of my department to work with the various boards and department heads on updating the master plan. So that would help. Thank you, Dottie, for bringing that up and suggesting that, because it gives me an easy way of working with the different boards to do that.
Yeah, I think we'll start the year off right, and we'll do that. Okay, so I mean that the next item on the agenda is chamber collaboration. We're talking about that, so we're also hitting that agenda item, how they express work with the EDC. I think that's how I open this up, Dottie. You didn't miss much, and what you did miss, you actually you paraphrased it in your thoughts, because we were talking in that same exact vein. So the only other item on the agenda under chamber collaboration was revitalizing Think Easton, which could tie into reviewing the master plan, this subsection of the master plan, and narrowing our goals. Before, I loved the meetings before. We would talk about so much in the meetings, and it was, if anything, it was very educational, and it was a great collaboration. It was really enjoyable, and through COVID, we were doing all the right things. How we were operating through COVID was incredibly beneficial to the community, to the businesses. Our meetings every month was really important because we came up with a lot in that period of time. But now that we're out of that, things have changed a little bit. This new format, I think, is good, at least for the next year. So before we move into the next item of recent business contact, does anybody have anything to add on what we just talked about? No? Okay. Recent business contact. Stephanie, you want to talk about that one?
There really hasn't been a lot. We've received some inquiries as to different properties, but really not much that I can share with you at this point in time. The planning board has been working with a potential developer, owner of property at 464 Foundry Street for new residential development. But this
Where's
is
464 Foundry?
464 Foundry. This is the property across from Shaw's Plaza. Okay, and it would be right now that parcel, it has a house on it that has been vacant for a few years now. It's been cleared for development, and if the project moves forward and goes through, it would be one of the kickstart developments in the area. I think everybody's seen a lot of the work that's gone on in the Furnace Village district over the last year. Rick Lincoln's projects, both the rehabilitation of the house at the intersection of Pequannock Avenue and Foundry Street, and the two new lots. The new houses have actually gone up. They're up already. I think someone's going to be moving in shortly. And the sawmill project received its permits back in September, and he has been working very diligently to move that project forward. So I think we're going to see a lot of activity in that district. I think the new zoning down there is really helping, plus all the investments that the town has made through the sewer infrastructure and also the promise of roadway improvements within the 10 years to provide sidewalks and traffic management and bicycle accommodations.
So does Sawmill have any more hurdles to clear to actually start construction or removal of all that fill? Or are they clear to go?
They're doing site work now to prepare. They'll be doing it in 2 phases. If people are familiar, the boundary site is kind of phase 1 of the project. Then they'll be constructing a bridge over to the westerly portion of the site. In total, there are 44 units, so there'll be roughly 22 on one side and 22 on the other. Mr. Lincoln intends to construct the boundary site portion of the project first and then move on to the second portion. So really right now what they're doing is the site work that's going to prepare. I still, people make little jokes about the amount of dirt that's there, and he is doing a lot of moving around, but that's in preparation. One of the components of the project was daylighting a stream that had been culverted. I think it's Mulberry Brook and not Beaver Brook. That work has been done, and the wetland mitigation work that accompanied that, all the site work has been done preparing for that restoration area. That was a big project.
Yeah.
And he's done that work and redefining the floodplain. So while we're not seeing houses yet, we are seeing a lot of, on our end, we see a lot of work in just a few months.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything going on in Queesit that you're able to talk about?
We have been approached, and an application has been about the property at 661 Washington Street. I believe it's already sold, and that a car dealership is proposed to go in there.
This is Korea's Plaza, for those who might not know. There was an original plan that didn't come to fruition, and I think rather than have what is there now, there's something that will be built, and it's better than what's there now. So, any other updates? Marketplace? Didn't a restaurant open up in there? Yeah.
Thai Food Theory is, we granted them a license, but they haven't opened yet. I'm not sure what's going on there. They're supposed to be working on it, but it doesn't seem like a lot of activity. But there is a craft collaboration, I guess I would call it. It's called the Frippery, Frippery, and it's a woman who runs it, but it's almost like a co-op of different artists and crafts people that have like their own displays and booths. So it's really, honestly, it's really great. I bought a couple of things in there around the holidays. The pricing is very reasonable. It's a lot of handmade. I bought a hat. They have classes there, like classes in taxidermy, like really interesting things. She said that's the biggest amount of people that they have, which I was really surprised at. They have painting classes, they have things like that, and it's really definitely a place to go check out. Very interesting things there. Something for everyone.
When do they open?
They open, I'm gonna say like in November, maybe.
No, like what are their hours? Are they weekends or?
I think they're open all the time. You can check them out on social media.
Okay.
And then we also, the select board permitted a woman who is, I think she makes African food, and she has like a little venue in there. She wasn't open when I was in there, but that sounds like she's going to be doing like catering and small events. And then there's another lady, her name's Natasha Clerger. She's on the town council in Randolph. I've known her before. And when I went in there to check out the frippery, she was in her space, and she has a very small event space in there, and she runs a catering company, so of all kinds of international foods. So
Mhm.
I think it's really nice to see some life back in the place. And Mark and I looked at it a few months back, and I would have bet that there was nothing that was going to make it suitable for a business. But I'll tell you, they cleaned it up, and these spaces are very nice. So congratulations to the folks at the marketplace, and we hope they are able to fill out the rest of it.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. And while we're on district updates, anything going on downtown? No.
No, we had some interest in one of the buildings downtown that we thought was going to move forward. And I haven't heard back. And it's been a few months since
One of the existing buildings.
one of the existing buildings.
No, but no word on the open lots, the holes in the ground, and
No.
Okay.
Up in the Roach Brothers Plaza next to Dunkin' Donuts, there's a sign on the door saying that there's a Thai food restaurant that's going to be opening there as well. So we haven't seen anything about that from the select board's perspective. We might not, depending on what it is. It could potentially just be a takeout place.
Mhm.
I don't know, but there is a sign there saying there's a Thai food place soon to be there.
Okay.
Will be known as the capital of Italian restaurants and Thai food places.
Yeah,
Fine by me. People complain about that. I'm like, are you kidding me? I have a million great restaurants to choose from, and the Italian restaurants, like, they got great steaks and they have great seafood too. I mean, I don't know if you've gone to La Cucina, but it's not just Italian. The seafood's amazing. The
I
steaks
took
are.
my husband there for his birthday, and I did have seafood. What did I have? Was it the salmon? I don't know. It was very good.
Yeah. Well, they
It was-
bring in
Yeah,
all
a
this.
lot.
No, it was the
salmon.
scallops. It was very, very good.
Yeah.
We
Never had
have
a
a
bad
lot
meal.
of restaurants for a town our size. We have a lot of
Yes.
really good restaurants, and they're really evenly distributed throughout the town. So I'll make a pitch for the app. If you go on the Discover Easton app under dining, you can see them all there in one easy to find place.
Yeah.
And they're people that they mentioned that we have a lot of restaurants in town. Sometimes it's not in a positive light, and I scratch my head and I say, well, all those restaurants exist and they're all thriving, so people are going there and they're supporting them. So there's obviously a market for this that needs to be filling.
And they're all in buildings that already exist. So, it's not as though, you're clearing
Mhm.
undeveloped land and turning it into
Yeah.
a restaurant. So,
A lot of my friends have a problem with me because I don't leave the town to go out to eat. I'm like, well, I don't need to.
yeah, that's,
The restaurant that's being built across from Stone Forge, that's going up super fast. Every time I drive by, I'm surprised to see how much that's moving forward. So that's going to be another really great restaurant choice as well.
Yep, it'll be a contributor to the Queesit district, which is good. All right, so that's district updates. Anybody have any questions, comments about district updates? No? All right, outreach support and congratulations. Stephanie, I'll leave that to you.
really, it has been so busy in other aspects of my responsibilities. I have not had a lot of time. There were a couple of events, the chamber ribbon cutting events I went to. One was for the fitness center over at the new, it's kind of a multi fitness recreation center on Turnpike Street next to South, I want to say South Street Motors, but that's not the name of it. Gosh.
Southeastern Motors.
Southeastern Motors. And then the caterer in Doug King's building on Oliver Street. They had a nice.
Pairings.
Pairings, that's it. Yeah.
I missed that one, but I really am disappointed because I've heard wonderful things about the food. And where did they just do the food for some event that I also missed? I guess that they're a really good contributor to the community. That and that new wild dahlia that's in across. We used to be where the beauty cottage
Yeah.
was. I've heard really great things about them as well. I haven't met them though.
Yeah, see, it's that funny because when they were going through the site plan review process, after it was completed, they came in with a bouquet of flowers and an arrangement, and it was the most beautiful arrangement. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I just sold my parents' house, and I wanted to send flowers to the broker who did the work for us, our agent, because she was fantastic. And she lives in Norton. And I wanted to go to Wild Dahlia, but they were not open. And I didn't, I don't think they had their hours posted on the window. I was a little disappointed.
Okay. So I think we're pretty much done with the agenda. The takeaways that I've got out of this meeting is we're going to reduce it to 4. We're going to shoot for an event in May. We will get together again in March, and we will discuss what that event, the date of that event, which hopefully will be determined by our March meeting, so we can start to put together our goals and logistics of that meeting and make that our rubric going forward. Is everybody in agreement?
Yeah.
Agree.
Mark, I have one update I'd like to share if that's okay with you.
Please, of course.
So I am also the chair of the cultural district, and that is from everything from Oaks Ames Hall down to Langwater Farm and all the businesses and assets in the middle there. And so the cultural district has applied for several grants, and we just were informed that we did receive one grant for $15,000. Usually that grant amount is $7,500, and the legislature doubled the amount this year. So there's 51 cultural districts out of 351 cities and towns. So it's pretty exclusive to have a cultural district. It's very hard to get the designation. I can't take any credit for that because that was all done by Carolyn Cole, who ran the district for a long time. Sadly, she passed away, and that's why I stepped in to help keep this going. But anyway, we'll be using that money to restart the Legacy Festival that we had in June for a few years before COVID. So we're going to be working diligently to try to get that moving. Our next meeting, I think, is next week. And that's going to be a priority. So we also, one of the goals of the cultural district with Mass Cultural was to hire somebody to help move it forward. We don't have any staff support. It's just completely volunteers. And it's super, super hard to have a committee like that because you really need somebody who's dedicated as a staff person to move things forward like Stephanie does for us. So we hired a part-time person that starts next week. Her name's Amy Rodriguez. She's actually on the Affordable Housing Trust. She's amazing. She's got a great experience in grant writing, working with Mass Cultural. She was with Mass Horticultural before. So she's got all those relationships. She's going to start working like 8 to 10 hours and help us with some of the big things like convening all the stakeholders in the district, helping get this Legacy Festival going. So the reason that's important to the Economic Development Council is because that's going to really activate things in the downtown, in the cultural district. And, it really, we're trying to make the connection between arts, culture, tourism, and economic development. And she's going to be a key asset in helping us make that happen. So I'll keep everybody posted on what will be going on with the Legacy Festival and how, if anyone on this committee wants to be involved, we're going to really need to get the word out to people and things like that. So I think it's something to really look forward to. We had a tremendous response the other couple of times that we did it. And it will also really reconnect, during COVID and then trying to post-COVID get everything back together again. We really want to get the members and the stakeholders in the district excited again. We want to work on putting together a community calendar, which is a big priority because there's so much going on. Nobody knows, you know, where the calendar for that is. So we've got some big things moving on that.
Get your hands full, Dottie.
I know. When am I going to be able to retire, Mark?
You're gonna have to just live longer.
Oh, my.
All right, guys. So unless anybody has that, and thank you, Dottie, for adding that. That's all great. That Legacy Festival was you know, I think I attended every year. It was around, and I loved it. It was awesome. The kids loved it. Will it still be at the Governor Ames Estate?
Yes, it will. The trustees of reservations, just Stephanie probably knows this best. I think they got the final
Oh,
okay
yeah,
on
that's
Monday
right. Yeah.
to tear. So there's a house on that property. It's a white house. It was not a historical house. It was, you know, one of the Ames family. I think Fred Ames lived there for a number of years, but I think it was built in like the 50s or, you know. So anyway, when the trustees bought that site, it's expensive to maintain and take care of a house like that, and there was no, the trustees are not in the renting or taking care of house business. They're in the land preservation business. So they knew early on that house was going to come down. It just has taken a while. So the plan is the house is going to be taken down and they're going to build a 3-season pavilion, which is going to be beautiful. We saw the schematics of it. It's going to have a big tent over the top of it. We'll be able to have all kinds of things. There should be music out there, lots of events, and they've had a change in their organization, and the new contact we have is really, really interested in working with the town and the cultural district to get a lot of activities to start taking place there. So a lot of great stuff. Hopefully they'll get the house taken down before we have the Legacy Festival. So we've got to figure out coordinating that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, that's coming down to the wire. Will the barn be taken down, or will that stay up?
No, the barn's going to stay up. They're going to put bathrooms in there, and they're going to have, the plan is, the last plan we saw was to put bathrooms in there and to have a warming kitchen, so that if people did want to have events there, you wouldn't be able to go in and have a catering kitchen to like cook and make things, but there'll be like a stainless steel table and some things, you know, microwave, maybe a sink, whatever, just to. They also were talking about doing some year-round programming. So even in the winter, that's a really underutilized spot where they could have some winter activities. And
Yeah, you could have like a sleigh ride. I mean, there's an amazing hill for sledding. I take my kids there every storm.
Yeah,
a lot of fun stuff to be had out there, and then in the winter.
yeah. So stay tuned. That's going to be that space is going to be activated very well this year.
Super exciting. Thank you. All right. Well, unless anybody has any questions, comments, we are ready to close out the meeting. No?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Bruce, second. All in favor? All right, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll talk in a couple months.
You too.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye,
Good,
guys.
thank you.
Bye.